say it very soon. Very, very soon. Refresh your Facebook. Watch it. So all you need to know, Frank, is things are going bad. Hit that flip button there.
Okay.
Don't hit it until you're ready to shut it all down.
Oh.
But what happened last time was the internet.
Okay.
And so that's the password.
Yeah.
So if everything goes well, we won't have any issues. Otherwise, just let it run. If it's over, hit the red button. I'll be back.
Is that will be in focus or is it just kind of?
Yeah, when you were up there, you were in focus. Maybe push the chair forward and back to my in focus. Give it a second to catch up with me. Okay.
You're pretty bright, you know. Maybe.
Those lights up above?
Let me see if I can.
Zero viewers. Just
I'm not on.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it might do a little better. Just stand up there. I'm still a little bright, but you can see your form well. That's a good thing. Oh, there you go. Okay, got it.
You got all set? All right.
It's a little off center, but I think that picture better. All right. Well, I'll leave you to it.
You want me to try to break everything down when it's over? Or you'll be back?
Yeah, I'll be back. Just sit down. You're on Facebook? And what's funny is I'll be watching these.
So just search Columbus Catholic Men and you should get to their page. So just search Columbus Catholic Men and you should get to their page. Search Columbus Catholic Men and you should get to their page. There's some weird chirping going on.
Is that something outside the?
Is that centered okay, do you think? I mean, he had me way over to the...
So,
You're off to the left. You have a-
Is that centered okay, do you think? I mean, he had me way over to the...
That's more centered. Are you seeing me kind of?
There's plenty of time if we need to set some stuff. You can run across the road.
That's more centered. Are you seeing me kind of? That's more centered. Are you seeing me kind of?
What's that? Well, it's good here. They had it for their big 800th Jubilee, and our money supposed to be for them. That's just a poster.
Well, you got it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Senior still.
You're over here. Basically, all those pictures of faded out of that. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
You just hit the red button?
Yeah, turn it on. So push that switch down and hold it a little bit.
Comes, okay, there you're good.
And then
And
just
then,
hit that.
yeah, just hit that and I'll start the recording.
Let me see if I can remember to do it.
Just pretty simple.
See if I remember to do it.
I'm doing sinful things. Good job. Oh, plenty of fun. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So what's the title of the book?
We'll figure it out. Tim Burkle's releasing this. I was just thinking,
We'll figure it out.
so this is our actual. It's,
You can work
it.
it. You can have it on.
Questions that he's afraid you're gonna ask.
All right. In preparation today, I just came.
You know, it's Thank God, that's a business guy. Wow.
He done my work, appointed client, who got out of some private lease for this town. And is back in jail for child pornography. So I got that news. So one of the more disgusting things that I have to do is look at the child pornography. So that they know that when they apply the guidelines, they're applying it correctly.
Wow, what's the, random of state is more of
This first time around, it was 4 years. This time around, hoping to put it somewhere in the level. He's gonna have a manageable there. If we need it, it means that we make it go to the grand jury. He'll be looking at a short period. Well, you know, and he would say, we have to mark it. I'm all the way to part of it, so.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like, right,
You know,
but you can go back and then is there physical contact, no one, I don't know, it's just very pictures.
but, yeah, that's what I was asking. The eye guy.
Well, of course, it's a great.
Yeah, we produce in the US.
And you know, this is a market for you. That's not really one. That's too much, that's too much work. Yeah, yes, but if that's what people use as the staff.
You no longer want to be industrial part, you don't have to run a risk of being sick. You know, and that was where now, you just sit in your house and move.
The, cure is right next to the assistance for pornography, right next to the
I'm ready to start.
Right, that's why I was really. Otherwise, you know, it's careful, just turn on your computer. And pull up your email, don't screen, you know, I see you're doing. I say, you know, maybe it's. Screens are really improved, but I have another side issue when I see one thing that's confusing. So I got to go to jump, but I don't think.
We got, listening set up.
Oh, yeah.
A little live.
You're gonna be on the internet.
Just say it out.
That's okay with you.
If not, it goes what left. There you go. So,
I'm enjoying in the scenario, but he's gonna be here. He's got a darn. I've got those good stuff. I got
oh, the picture's 20,000 feet, but
I think the girls are going to keep he's not well. I think they were picking up this.
you already just put the money in cents.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Push on never left.
We're talking
I know how to turn it on.
On the bottom?
I think it's... All right, Frank, where are you? It says select.
Yes. Did you do it?
No.
You?
There you go. I bet you're on.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since you're eating already, let me spare you the sin. Let's begin with a prayer in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts which we are about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. Enjoy your lunch. Now it's on mute.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, go.
I want to welcome everybody. My name's Tim Merkel. I'm the president of the Catholic Men's Luncheon Club. As my predecessor would say, all of you who are here today are now members of the Columbus Men's Catholic Men's Luncheon Club. I want to acknowledge our leadership team, Frank Harchie, Jim Gurnitzky, and John Schechter. They're somewhere in the room here. These guys are really the backbone of this, and they really do an outstanding job. Also want to welcome anyone who is a brand new member today. Do we have anybody that's here for the first time? First time? We kind of have a tradition where we ask you to stand up and introduce yourself and just tell us what parish you're from. Why don't we start over here?
My name's Louis Gordon.
Wow, you came away. Well, welcome to all of you. Hope you all come back. Also want to acknowledge our sponsor today. It's Nos Lumine, which is a Catholic business organization. I think there's some literature on the tables and business cards. Feel free to grab the business cards and get in touch with Jim Gronetsky, who runs Nos Lumine. Also would ask you, if you're interested in sponsoring, to contact Jim Gronetsky. How that all works around is pretty good. It's usually a $250 fee that helps us to provide a stipend for our speakers, and kick a little over to St. Patrick's for the use of the room. Okay. Now I got to figure out how to turn this on, because I forget every week, and then we don't have a recording of it. Although we are streaming this live. We hope, yeah, we hope. Frank's in charge of that. Want to introduce our speaker today is Father Noble. I know from standing over at the line as people were coming in, a lot of you are familiar with him. Father Noble has done a variety of jobs within the diocese. He is past principal of Fisher Catholic, I believe. When they threw him out, he became the superintendent of schools, and followed that up with being pastor at St. Matthew's for 11 years. And then 6 years ago, he followed the calling of Bishop Campbell to become the vocations director for the diocese. He's been doing a great job of that. And I haven't heard any rumors that they're looking to replace him. So he's gonna speak to us today about the vocations, and I don't know. He's kind of kept his talk a mystery, so we'll find out as he goes. Father Noble.
Thanks, Tim. Couple of things to start with. First of all, one of the reasons I didn't tell Tim what I was going to talk about was because he didn't really care. And so long as I was up here for about a half hour, he had his job done. And connected to that, and I do have a background in education. And one thing that I learned really early on is never put a clock right behind the speaker. Just a bad sign to start with. But happily, I'm very grateful to be here, happy to spend some time with you. I don't have a whole lot to say, but I think what I do say may start some discussion, and I'm happy to participate in that discussion with you. Before I do that, though, I am happy to announce that in less than 7 hours, we will be ordaining Dan Olvera, a transitional deacon for our diocese. Dan is Dan here? By the way, I didn't see him coming in. Anyway, Dan has been a teacher. He's what qualifies as a second career vocation, if you will. He was a teacher in Grandview Heights schools for 17 years as a math teacher. He then joined the diocese, joined the formation program, and has been studying in Pope St. John the 23rd National Seminary in Boston. That's the seminary, quote unquote, for the old guys. So you can't qualify to attend there unless you're 36 years or older. So those high school seniors don't have the chance to go out to Boston. We keep them closer by. Pray for Dan, pray for the church, pray for vocations. All of those are needed, and thank you for those prayers that you do offer for those causes. I am here substituting for Monsignor Schreck, who was the rector of, or I'm the second call. A few years ago, I had the privilege of being in the magazine Columbus Business or Business Columbus, whatever it was. And it was talking about pastors running parishes kind of as businesses. And when the chancellor called and said, would you do this article? I said, tell me if I was the first one on the list. He said, you were on the list. I said, thank you very much. And again, I am happy to be here. But in the vein of Monsignor Schreck, I thought what I would do is spend some time with you talking about where those guys come from. You know, I often get the question of, maybe in an expression of frustration with a local priest or pastor, where in the world did they find this guy? Well, that's part of my job. And I wanted to talk about that process of admitting someone to the formation program. And to do that, I was thinking about 1985, which was a few years ago. I hired my first teacher as a principal 35 years ago. And since then, from 1985 to 2010, when I finished my work at St. Matthew's to go to the Vocation's office, I can say that I hired the gamut of employees in church work and school work. I hired teachers, I hired coaches, I hired cafeteria workers, I hired development directors, I hired principals, I hired downtown staff, a whole variety of those folk. I didn't hire great every time, but I had the sense of interviewing someone, assessing whether or not they would be good for the job, and putting my faith in them and giving them the chance. In the year 2010, I became vocation director for the diocese, and I went to vocation director school. It's not a very big school. It doesn't take very long. It's part of the National Conference of Diocesan Vocation Directors Convention. They host a 2-day new vocation directors workshop. And so I attended. I didn't know what I was doing, so I attended that. And over the course of the 2 days, they went through the process of interviewing. How do you identify and accept a candidate into your program? Now, again, up until that point, I had 29 years worth of interviewing and hiring experience. So when they finished the workshop and they laid out in front of me all of the stuff that they thought was normal and is what we do, I kind of sat back and scratched my head and said, I didn't have anywhere near this amount of information, and I was hiring people to be principals of high schools. This process identifies a candidate who is then admitted to a program where we're going to watch them for 4 more years. Minimum. That's if you're an old guy going out to St. Pope John the 23rd in Boston. Every place else, it's going to be a minimum of 6 years or 8 years. We would hope that over the course of the 6 or the 8 years, we can have a better feel for who that person is. But I'm going to share with you some of those things that we do to prepare a fellow to enter the formation program. We all have application forms. And on the application form, my application form for the diocese is a fairly concise form. Of course it's concise. If I'm going to be part of it, it's going to be concise. But anyway, a fairly concise form of about 10 pages. And over the course of the 10 pages, we're going to be asking information about the family life, asking information about their spiritual life, their intellectual life, maybe their pastoral experience. Connecting to that application, for me, actually there's a two-fold process of application. The Diocese of Columbus does not own a seminary. The Josephinum is located within the Diocese of Columbus, but it is not the property or the sole program of our bishop. If you go to Mount St. Mary's of the West in Cincinnati, that is the program of the Archbishop of Cincinnati. He's the boss. We don't have that. So we have an application to the diocese and then an application to the seminary, 2 separate steps. We like each other, we talk to each other, we're working together on the same project, but it is still individual components and acceptance forms. Similarly, when we send a guy out to Boston, we have someone apply to the Diocese of Columbus for sponsorship and then to the seminary. The seminaries do not want to accept anyone as a free agent. You don't just show up at a seminary and say, I want to study to be a priest. Let me come study and then get qualified, and then I'll worry about finding a bishop. No, you have to have a bishop's sponsorship to start with. So as part of that process, we have the application form. We have the canonical suitability interview. So the canonical suitability interview is, have you done anything according to canon law that would disqualify you from being ordained? One that comes rushing to mind for us is getting married. So if you don't ask, how would you know, right? So anyway, we have that interview process. We also have the psychological assessment. And the psychological assessment includes 8 different instruments. And of those 8 different instruments, there is the MMPI-2, the Minnesota Multiphasic Inventory. I don't know if you've had the privilege of taking that or not. They now have a second version. There's 1.5 million questions on it. Among those other 7 items is the sexual addiction screening test. You go through this psychological evaluation. You meet with the psychologist. The report of the evaluation is sent to me as vocation director and to the seminary. We get the copies. We're paying for it. We get the copies. The candidate does not. If you had the privilege of starting as a freshman in the Josephinum, so you've been there for 4 years, the psychological evaluation is only good for 4 years. So if you were to then cross the parking lot from the college building to the theology building, and you haven't gotten a career yet, be one that administers psychological evaluations. There's some money in it, and it's a pretty decent frequency. But anyway, so they meet with the psychologist, we get the reports, and we evaluate the reports. In addition to the psychological evaluation, we have they prepare an autobiography. They must submit letters of recommendation from people who know them. We want a teacher, someone who knows them in the classroom. We want a pastor. We want a friend, a family member. A variety of letters of recommendation are compiled to support this person's candidacy. In addition to that, we have the transcripts from whatever educational program they have attended. We have the standardized tests of SAT, ACT. We also would have any kind of documentation from the military if they had been honorably discharged in their military career. We do require them to provide a birth certificate and a passport. We're only accepting legal immigrants and citizens, and we require the criminal background check. And the standard for the criminal background, I presume you are all familiar with the Protecting God's Children program. And as part of that program is the criminal background check. So any candidate who cannot successfully complete the Protecting God's Children program, as well as the criminal background check that accompanies that, would be disqualified from admission. After that, we do also require the medical examination, which includes the test for HIV/AIDS. Gathering that information together, I have then an interview with the candidate. And from that candidate's interview, I determine whether or not Bishop Campbell will sponsor that fellow into the seminary. At that point then, and the Josephinum is modifying their program now, all along the Josephinum has had the opportunity and the right to interview anyone attending that school. Freestanding school, they have every right to do that. Up until this past May, they kind of did it sporadically. This past year, May of 2015, they decided maybe we should start interviewing guys again. Out of the blue, they pulled 2 candidates from the Diocese of Columbus and sent them letters of saying, we'd like to interview you. And of course, these fellows know other fellows who have applied, and they were scared out of their mind. What in the world have I done? Because all of the other guys said, well, we were never interviewed by the Josephinum. You must. So they kind of lost their lunch, but then they ended, and of course the Josephinum, when I called them and said, so like you're doing interviews? Yeah. Well, like maybe you're causing a little amount of stress in some of these guys. Oh, well, it's nothing, don't worry about it. Oh, all right. So I called the guys back and said, just follow through with the interview, you'll be fine. And to a degree, and again, as I have my own experiencing with interviews, at that point, so the person has never spent a day in formation. At that point, I'm going to put my interview and background review experience up against the Josephinums and say, if the Bishop of Columbus says he wants to sponsor this guy and the Josephinum doesn't want to accept him, then I need to find a seminary that will. But unless, of course, they have a good reason, and I'm happy to listen to their reason, but if they're saying, well, we know him as well as you do, well, then I'll say, yep, I do, and I'm going to find him a school. If after a month of living with the guy on campus and they were to call me up and say, we missed it, this was a mistake, I'm fully prepared to be supportive of the Josephinum's assessment. They have far more to go on than I would. But up until that point, when we had determined sponsorship, I think my call's as good as theirs. That's never happened where we've had a disagreement over that. It has happened where I have said, I have some concerns. I do need you to watch this fellow. I do need you to give me good advice. I think he's worth a start. I think he's worth entering. Let me know, let's work together on this, and they're happy to do that. But in a general way, we're in agreement. We're happy to, if we have accepted the fellow, we're happy to admit him and let him move forward. Again, that then starts the program, so they're going to then have 4, 6, 8 years of formation. They're going to be in a closed environment with men prepared to act as formation people. They're going to be educated. You're not going to come in and say, I've got all of the coursework done, just ordain me. It doesn't work that way. I admitted a fellow this past August who already has a bachelor's degree in theology and a master's of arts degree in theology. And we said, all you need is 4 more years. So we do see that time as essential. We want to get to know those people very well. We want to have confidence that as we place them before the congregations of our diocese, they're well prepared, they're balanced men with good hearts, ready to serve the people of the diocese. So it's all part of a process, and I went through with you just now what it takes to enter. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. None? Good, thanks.
Jim.
All dioceses have something similar to that, is there,
That's very standard. Yep. You know, we have had on occasion, you know, maybe a student up at Notre Dame or some disreputable school like that, who couldn't make it down for a psych eval. So we'll have the, you know, Diocese of Fort Wayne South Bend conducted with their psychologists there. They're going to give the same 8 tests. They're going to give us the same kind of data. We're all following pretty much the same program. Yes. Is there, if you didn't hear the question, is there a cause and effect process of shortage of priests and the vetting process? I hope so. You know, I don't know what else it is. I don't think so. I don't think that we're blocking good men pursuing priesthood from pursuing the priesthood. Whatever choices that may be around in their lives that are preventing them from pursuing it, I don't think this is stopping them. We do hope that we're stopping those who aren't good choices for priesthood. Yes.
How come I don't see information table at the men's conference from the Vocation office? We're going to have shortage of priests. That seems to be a good place to have.
How come they wanted to charge me $250? How much was it? Mr. Wilson, how much was it? Okay, wow, they didn't tell me that. I got this letter that said, we're going to charge you. I'm already taking your money. I'm going to take your money and give it back to you. But you can give me a table, I'll set it up. Happy to.
The reason I ask that is because the person that sets up those tables tries to get some people from different orders and has asked your office. And has not.
I've been asked once, just this past spring, and they were going to charge me, and I said, I'm busy. But now that you're not going to charge me, I'll be there with a table. With wonderful literature on it. Yes.
I grew up in a Catholic family, East Coast. A lot of you are my age. You know, a lot of ignorance. As a kid, you're told, how do you know you're supposed to be a priest? Well, if you're called or you're chosen, and then the lights didn't go on when I'm 12, I think God didn't choose me. And there's a lot of confusion, and a lot of families, well-meaning families, don't understand the formation process or whatever. I've been listening quite often to Vocation Boom at 5 o'clock on Saturdays, and it's interviewing different priests, and I find it very enlightening to the different stories and the processes that you've been talking about. We think, is this like, we think it's like a business, new career change, or a weight loss program, or a 90-day plan or something. And a lot of people probably argue with your formation process, but it's on purpose.
Right.
Because it's spiritual as opposed to.
And Vocation Boom is on at 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Good.
Saturdays on AM 1, or AM 820 here.
Yes. Catholic Radio 820. Yes. Question? Yes.
I did have one. I mean, I think the process is long and it's difficult and it's great, okay, because it's a one-time decision, okay, and I think you make it many times, but you know, so it's great. The one thing I don't understand is you're laying out the process. What's like you get a copy of the psychological evaluation and the
Seminary. Yeah.
But the candidate doesn't get it.
The candidate is given the report by the psychologist, but the information isn't his. The information is ours. Yes.
what is next year's class look like?
8. Excuse me. When I first started in this job, Bishop Campbell said, how many do you think you're going to have for next year? I said, 8. He said, oh, good. I said, I'm going to tell you 8 every time you ask. There may be years when we have more, and that'll be great. And there may be years when we have less, and that'll be a shame. They change their mind, but we have 8. So anytime anyone asks, it's 8. Yes. It's very high ratio of acceptance. Yes. And that kind of goes back to the I'm getting close. That goes back to the Josephinum is now championing a program that's going to be a national database for applicants, so that if someone has applied to Detroit, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and then they come around to Columbus, I'll be able to go into that database and say, well, why is this guy just wandering around not being accepted? Part of the challenge to that is, where do we draw the line to qualify him to get into that database? I probably get 5 or 6 emails a week from men in Africa who are interested in applying to the Diocese of Columbus. I don't accept any of them. They're not interested in applying to the Diocese of Columbus. They are sending that email to every vocation director in the United States. So there's a qualifier for me right away. Oops, I don't want. So would I cut that person off? Or, you know, someone calls on the phone, and you'd be surprised what I get on the phone. And I say this in charity, and without revealing any name, because I don't know that I ever knew the fellow's name, but a fellow was calling because he was feeling the call to the priesthood, and all he had to do was take care of his wife and 4 kids, and he'd be right in. You know, I didn't send him an application, so he wouldn't qualify for the database. But so someplace along the line, we're going to have someone who has applied, and we've said, thank you, but you are not interested, or we're not interested in pursuing with you, and we have put that person in the database. So we're working out the bugs with that program. We're happily volunteering to work with the Josephinum on that. We do want to have a clear communications from dioceses and religious orders. That's also part of the question. You know, are they applying to the Dominicans, the Franciscans, the Benedictines, and the Diocese of Columbus?
I'm an expat from Madison, Wisconsin, and I've seen Bishop Martino go to the Newman Center on campus and ask all of the single men to stand up after the 5:30 mass, ask those who had girlfriends to please sit down. and then ask all of them to come downstairs after mass to discuss with him. It's a really big ask. You know, I have never seen Bishop Martino or Bishop Campbell in the 6 years that I've been here actually do that here at the Newman Center.
He does it at the men's conference every year, and I get phone calls from that. So
just a suggestion, it might be a good place.
I have gone to every parish in the Diocese of Columbus and made the pitch, and I'm on my second. It is, but I do a better job than the bishop. I'm on my second tour. And
maybe Martino does a better job.
How many seminarians does he have? I got 8.
That's classified.
That's right. There's.
I was just, and then I wanted to ask, what do you do? You know, I've got 2 faithful grandsons, you know, and I'm like the other man over there. I don't remember anybody ever asking me, you know, not that it was a real prestigious job in the 60s. But I don't, you know, how do you encourage in young men who are approaching teens and in their teens, how do you get about it? You know?
Your job is to tell everyone, male and female, God is calling you. Are you listening? We can't forget the vocation to marriage. I'm going to tell you right now, marriage is down 50% from the year 2000 to now among Catholics. That's the vocation crisis. If we were to have, I'm going to go right out on the limb, but if we were to have that other 50% of faithful, healthy Catholic families, I wouldn't be having a problem getting vocations. So I need you to talk to your children and grandchildren about all vocations. Priesthood, religious life, married life. These are sacred calls. I think that's a real weakness in our world, and a real distraction for me. You know, we've adopted a somewhat cynical worldview, so that if someone comes in and says, "Oh, I'm getting married," you know, our comical knee-jerk response is, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." Well, it shouldn't be. We should be congratulating them. We should be celebrating with them. We should be encouraging them. This is a sacred vocation. God's calling you to this. This is going to be your source of grace for your family life. We endorse that and support that. And in doing that, we can also say, now there's other vocations. There's that vocation to the priesthood. There's that vocation to the consecrated religious life. There's that vocation. I have a very good friend who is a Dominican religious woman. And periodically, you know, we talk about those orders that are thriving. And we're grateful for that. And we're supportive of that. And that is a drop in the bucket compared to what it was 50 years ago or so. So we you know, to support women in the call to their consecrated life is essentials. This discussion of vocation has to happen with every child at the table. All of us are called. All of us need to hear that call. All of us need to be responding to it. Thank you for that. Pretty good entry. Yes, sir.
Based on that comment just now, do you have any input into the religious education diocese?
Do I have any input? I know where the office is. It's downstairs. You know, I don't have any active dialogical relationship with them at this moment. At one time, I was vicar for education, and that was one of my departments. Mercifully, I gave that hat away, and I became a pastor. That was a wonderful experience, and then now vocation director. But yes, but we talk about it all the time. Yes, sir.
Does anybody ever turn away because of finances?
Yes. The finances is if you come to me and have a less than $30,000 student loan, we'll work with you. We won't pay it. We'll be able to defer it and get the, yeah. If you come in with $130,000 worth of expenses, or you have a house that you can't sell, or, you know, some significant, we can't take you on because we can't make up that difference. So finances would be a disqualifier. Could be one way to get out of that bad loan, though, couldn't it? You know, I couldn't pay it, so I became a priest. Yes, sir. I don't. Deacon Frank Anarino is the director of the diaconate program. There is a screening process. There is a. I don't know. It is not as exhaustive, and it's not as long. Yes, sir.
Do the other Christian theology and seminary equivalent suffer the same difficulties that the Catholic Church does? The low attendance, no applications.
Some do. Yeah.
Some do.
Yep. There seem to be an abundance of Methodist ministers. When I've spoken with Lutherans and Episcopalians, they seem to be suffering some of the same shortages that we do.
Like an American culture thing, maybe?
It could be an American culture thing, but even Europe, they're really suffering in Europe, the secularization of society over there and the shunning of any kind of faith relationship. Tim, am I out of time? Thank you.
Thank you, Father. That was wonderful. We are adjourning. I just would tell you that our next luncheon is the first Friday in June. I don't have the date right in front of me. Our speaker will be Commander Mike Springer from the Columbus Police Department, that will be talking about faith and in the workplace. And I think you'll all enjoy it. Thank you.